Hello everybody, it's Doctor Dirty Dan Gleebitz here, and today I'm going to show you how to change your spark plugs on your car. Alright, so step one, gather your supplies. What you'll need is a spark plug socket. This socket I got from a local auto parts store. It's a 1/2-inch drive, it's magnetic, and it has a rubber boot so that it can take out plugs and not break them if I want to reuse them. This is a 1/2-inch drive with a long extension. I'm using double Iridium plugs. Now the material on what plugs you use will make a difference on how long your plugs will last. Typically, Iridium is the best metal you can get. These last around 80 to 100,000 miles. Under Iridium is platinum, and then under that is copper. You may have to gap your spark plugs. Now these come pre-gapped. Yep. But just to double check, you may want to make sure it's what your manufacturer specifies based on your car, yada, yada, yada. So let's get started. All right, so all you gotta do is open your hood. Now your spark plugs are under these spark plug boots. Now this car is driven by a distributor that has spark plug wires. Now most cars out there do still run this kind of system, but there are a good chunk of cars out there that run ignition coils, and I'll show you what that is right now. I'm gonna remove these plastic covers in order to show you the ignition coils on this side of this V8 engine. Each ignition coil only has one plug going into it from the harness. Each one is only held on by 2 small nuts. Once removed, the ignition coil can pull out straight towards you. This is what an ignition coil looks like. Each ignition coil is held onto the engine by 2 bolts and 1 plug to the harness. Each spark plug has its own ignition coil. So this car has 1, 2, 3, 4 spark plug boots, and they all can just be removed. You can tell which one is which by just determining the length. See, this shortest one, goes on this one, next longest one goes to that one, and so on and so on. So we can just take them out. As you can see, these spark plug boots were relatively clean. This one was filthy. You can see by the spark plug boot, this one's just covered in oil or some sort of weird material. But we'll be changing the plugs nonetheless. So down here is where your spark plugs are, and this is what attaches to this end of your spark plug. Bloop. When you work on an engine, it's always best that it be cold and not driven recently, but it's not the end of the world if you do it. Just know that if you're working on a warm engine, you're more liable to break stuff because the metal's a little bit softer. All right, so let's take out these plugs. Oh wow, it's really easy to take them out. There we go. As you can see, this spark plug is not in the greatest condition, but still pretty functional. Now when we look at them, NGK, Iridium. So it's best that we change these out. Pulling out number 2. This one is pretty oil coated, which is common in these older Japanese engines. Their seals start to leak and they start to burn oil. It's pretty normal. Yeah. I'm pulling out number 3. Number 3 doesn't look too bad at all. It does look like it's been burning some oil, but it's relatively dry, which is ideally what you'd like to see. Pulling out number 4. 4 is okay. Looks decent. This is ideally you want your spark plug to look more along the lines of this. All right, so after taking these out, surprisingly, number 4 with the worst discolored boot ended up looking more or less the best. 3 was okay. 1 was needed to be changed, but 2 is definitely oil soaked. This is an older engine, and the seals are, not the greatest, so it's kind of expected that they would be a little oil coated. But all right, let's put the new spark plugs in. This is the new spark plug that'll be going in. This is a Bosch double Iridium. Aha. Now, when I pull out the box on this, it says not to gap it and do not use anti-seize, but we do need to torque it to 21 foot-pounds. Further examining your spark plugs, you want to make sure that your new spark plugs are intact. This white material is ceramic. This is the insulator between this part of the spark plug and the ground. You want to inspect it and make sure your ceramic is intact, it's not cracked in any way, and if it is cracked, you do not want to put that in your car because it'll cause all kinds of problems and your car won't run right. So the way I like to put spark plugs in, I tend to just put them in my little spark plug removal socket, which is magnetic, which means it doesn't fall, and it's rubber. It has a rubber boot on the inside so it doesn't break the ceramic. What I do is I just put it in the hole, careful not to bang it on anything else, okay, and then just start twisting. I'm not putting any downward pressure, I'm just letting it twist, letting it find the threads on its own. There are other methods of doing this, like with a piece of fuel line, you attach it to the spark plug and you just by hand put it in just ever so slightly so you don't end up stripping the threads in your engine, which is very, very bad. Just gonna go until finger tight. And that's about tight right there. It's as far as I can do it by hand. So I'm going to use a torque wrench to torque down the spark plug. Ideally you don't need one, you just need to tighten it until snug, say maybe a whole turn, maybe less than that. This is set to 21 foot-pounds. If you see how far I'm turning it, it's just about 1/4. One quarter and an eighth, about a third of a whole turn, just 1/3. This is just from hand tight. It should stop at about right here. And then once you've done that, you put your boots back in. This one goes in that one. Make sure it seats and clicks. Goes in that one, seats and clicks. Seats in that one, seats and clicks. Alright, so now we're gonna start up the car after putting in the spark plugs. Seems to be running okay. Looks good. Alright, and that is how to change your plugs on any car.